Today we're going to go to an event at the library where a local author is going to kick off our city's Reads program, where the whole city gets a free book from the library and we all read it together. It's like a big citywide book club. Shannon Hale will be kicking it off tonight, and she's going to be talking about the banning of books. Now, don't forget what state I'm from. And this is a library I work at that's had issues with this, with people in the city bugging us about what we're displaying. And so I'm very, very excited and anxious and curious about how this is going to go down tonight. If I can, I will take a few videos and let you know how it goes.
So happy to be here with you tonight. I just want to take a second and we all came, we all showed up. Life was really busy, and we all decided to come to the same place at the same time and have an experience together of curiosity and compassion. These are my two guiding words. I love these so much. And I chose this picture because first of all, I just love bees. Bees are so cool. Like, the more you learn about bees, you're like, bees are amazing. For me, the bee kind of represents curiosity. It's like, what's this I smell? This is interesting. I'm gonna go check out this flower, see if it's good for me or not good for me. And then the flower represents for me compassion. I mean, flowers represent love, really, right? We give them in gestures of romantic love or friendship or sympathy or celebration. I have to tell you, never, ever in my wildest imagination did I think this book would be controversial. It did not cross my mind. Truthfully, I don't write allegory, I never have. If you need to control who a child will become, if there's a right and a wrong way to be, and you love your kids so much, and you want to prevent them from being that wrong way, you'll do all in your power to make sure they end up the right way. What I would like to introduce into this is some curiosity and compassion. If we can say maybe it's not an either or, maybe this is not a yes-no question. Maybe there's a way to be yourself. Curiosity is the opposite of fear. I don't know what I was, not being afraid. But yeah, because when you're afraid, you can't think clearly, you just need to get away. But if you're afraid and you go, that's interesting, and I try that all the time. I go, that's interesting. It's a person with a lifelong anxiety disorder. I get the fear coming up all the time. And I've learned to go, that's interesting. And I notice how I'm feeling. And then I bring some compassion into it, and it changes how I interact. Not only read it and reread it, but she sleeps with it every night, hugged to her chest. I was a brand new author. This is my first book. And I was blown away. There's nothing about divorce in this book. I wasn't thinking about this girl who's going through divorce and designing a book to be a comfort to her. I was just doing the best I could by this story. And it made me realize that we as authors cannot control how readers receive our book or what their reaction will be, for good or bad. And in many ways that was really liberating. And I could just let go of the concern of trying to make sure I pleased everyone, because that was never going to happen. Princess Academy was my third book that came out, and it made a big splash when it came out. And I've had a lot to say about how this book was really marketed only for girls. It showed me in a really significant way how in our culture we decide that men's stories are universal and women's stories are only for girls and women. That men's stories matter so much more. And many, many people said that boys would not like this book or care about this book. And I found out that was wrong, that they did. But really, what does it say, using some curiosity? What does it say that people believed they wouldn't? That they believed that boys were incapable of empathizing with a female character. Even that the people felt they must protect boys from having to empathize with a female character. But in Hollywood, if something is rated PG, it's seen as a children's movie. So they had to do it PG-13 so adults would know that they might enjoy it as well. And through a process like this and other ways, I've realized rating systems do not work. First of all, who gets to decide? Who gets to decide what is okay for everybody? Everybody in this room, if we talked, there are some things we would all have in common, and then there would be so many things that we disagreed on. And that's okay. We don't have to all agree. First, it's about Princess Magnolia, who loves wearing fluffy pink dresses and glass slippers and decorating cupcakes. She also loves putting on black and fighting monsters. And it's not either or. She doesn't have to choose. That binary, it's a big theme in my books if you look at it. I think the binary, the idea that there's only this or this is so destructive and so untrue. She gets to be both. I've done school visits and assemblies in like 45 different states. And every time I talk about the Princess in Black, there's always some kid in the audience who would say, is there a prince in pink? Because they got it. They got the joke. We don't usually see a princess wearing black. We don't usually see a prince wearing pink. And they wanted the prince in pink. And so everywhere we tell these kids, yes, someday we're into a prince in pink. And back then, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 5 years ago, we weren't worried about doing a prince in pink. But the feelings in the country have changed so much. But by the time a book is usually done, we're done 2 years before it comes out. By the time we were done and it was in production, we thought, oh no, this is a book. This is a book that's going to get us banned. Nevertheless, we stand by it. This book is about Princess Magnolia goes to the festival. She is in charge of decorating for the ball, but a grumpy emu crushes her decorations. Prince Valerian shows up and helps her with the emu, but what she really needs is help fixing her decorations. And he is excited about this because he is also, secretly, his alter ego is the Prince in Pink, that darling of discos, that paladin of parties, who just loves celebrations and is fun. Guess what the reaction was? I mean, many people were very loving, but here's one reaction we got. Why does this series need an effeminate boy character? This is just another grab to warp a fun series for children into a tool for woke indoctrination. The kids are listening to what their grown-ups are saying and how they're tearing down and saying, this boy does not deserve to be a character in a book. I do not want my children to empathize with him. And that feels very, very real to these very, very real boys. And whenever we do, we tend to put them into a hierarchy. So the obvious example here is male, female, feminine, masculine. And we put those into a hierarchy that says masculine is aspirational and feminine is demeaning. So when a girl expresses herself and shows some masculine traits, she is praised because she is being aspirational, she is reaching up. When a boy shows feminine traits, he's demeaning himself and he is pulling down. But of course that's not true. They're both aspirational, they're side by side. Masculine and feminine is a continuum. We all have various masculine and feminine traits that come out in different ways depending on our context and what we're doing. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think if we can show some curiosity about this tendency to judge femininity in a negative way. Look at my husband's face. You don't think we know fear? We're teenagers. We understand fear. And as parents, we are not really prepared. Not really. Not at all are we prepared. No, there's no instruction book or there's no class or certification, and there should be. But this is what I keep coming back to. Every time that fear comes up, and the fear makes us want to control, to go into curiosity, that's interesting, and inject some compassion. This fear cannot remain when there's curiosity and compassion. And when we make choices out of curiosity and compassion, they're always going to be more loving. And if they're more loving, they're more tied to that part of ourself that is always connected to universal love. Because I've stood up a lot against the book banning, I've had a lot of people question me why. Isn't there just some subject matter that should not be in any book? Obviously, these books would not go in elementary schools, but the ones that were in high school libraries were deemed appropriate by those trained librarians. And there is reason for sexual content in books. Most of the books banned have depictions of abuse and rape. And this is something that matters so much to me in every culture around the world, in every time period. When even the discussion of sex has been taboo, that's where predators flourish. And I want to stop that. Besides the research, I know personally in my own life so many women who were abused and did not have the information and did not understand and didn't know even how to talk about it. So to give somebody a book about these matters, carefully, thoughtfully, these are not pornography, they're not done graphically, is to empower them. I love this quote by Jason Reynolds, the great Jason Reynolds, our former National Ambassador for Children's Literature and a lovely human being who I've known for years. He says, "Be not afraid of discomfort. If you can't put yourself in a situation where you are uncomfortable, then you will never grow, you will never change, you'll never learn." I've got just 2 more quotes. From Amy Morin, "The more you practice tolerating discomfort, the more confidence you'll gain in your abilities to accept new challenges." Sometimes we feel discomfort and we think that means whatever is making you uncomfortable is evil. But actually discomfort is the first step before growth. Brene Brown, of course. Oh, I'll read it from here so I don't have to put my head up. "I spent a lot of years trying to outrun or outsmart vulnerability by making things certain and definite, black and white, good and bad," the binary we've been talking about. "My inability to lean into the discomfort of vulnerability limited the fullness of those important exercises that are wrought with uncertainty. Love, belonging, trust, joy, and creativity." There's no system everybody can agree in. Is the presence of someone who's Christian, does that make it R-rated? Does that make it a book that you should be warned about? I have a book where there is a girl who takes off all her clothes in front of an army of men. It would absolutely be flagged for inappropriate nudity. It's one of the most beautiful, selfless scenes from Book of a Thousand Days. I bet when I said that, those of you who read the Book of a Thousand Days didn't even remember there was nudity in it. But as soon as you got someone going down through it and looking for all those things, you can't express really the context of everything that happens just when you're flagging this sentence or that word, and etc. So I don't see it working. I think it's a great idea, though, that people have blogs and websites where people will read it and they'll say, hey, this is kind of the content in it for parents that are concerned, that they can go look those places. And so many of my dear friends who have been banned have Black writers, Asian writers, Hispanic writers have had picture books banned that were just about like cultural moments. Like there was just, even kitty corn, I guess, was R-rated compared to some of this stuff. And it was just like making dumplings with grandma, and that was banned. My friends who are native and have, books about making fry bread with grandma, and that's been banned. So there's been many books that have been banned. Again, why? There's no logic to it, but there's that fear coming up. And somebody's afraid of the way the world is changing in a way that they don't understand. It's ignorance, right? You can have compassion for it, but I'm hoping and you get to choose and you get to decide that. Okay, I don't know what's gonna happen. I was scared. I hugged my kids goodbye when I left. I did. It's a divisive nation right now. Turns out that I have a certain amount of privilege and I have a certain amount of armor that I've earned, especially in this state. And people are kind to me. And I can say things that if some of my more vulnerable friends were part of marginalized communities, if they said, people wouldn't listen to them and they were more likely to be attacked. And so I'm a safer person to say it than other people. So I step up to say it because I want other people not to have to. I would rather talk about kitty corn. I would. But anytime I can say, just genuinely, how much I love people, how much I love kids, and I love teenagers. Weird teenagers, the weirder the better. My 4 weirdo neurodivergent teenagers, they bring so much into the world. They look nothing and act nothing like what I thought my image of what they should be like when I was a young mother. And I rejoice in it so much. We don't have to be afraid, you guys. We don't have to live in fear. people are really, really good. We're gonna all come to our senses and disagree beautifully and kindly and live our lives according to what feels best to us without trying to control other people. We are gonna get there. We're in a really tough spot, but I believe we will. All right. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming.
So in the end, I felt like the whole event with Shannon Hale and talking about book banning turned out really awesome. I really enjoyed what she had to say. She did it in a very diplomatic way, and I was a little worried that maybe some of the people in our community who are the ones that kind of lead this book banning charge all the time, that they would come and heckle her or just, kind of create some conflict. And if they were there, they were quiet. They didn't say anything at all, even when she opened it up for questions and stuff. So it turned out to be really nice and compassionate, like she kept saying. Curiosity and compassion. I feel like that's what everybody went home thinking, that even if there's something that you don't understand or feel weird about or feel uncomfortable about, then just have some curiosity and compassion. And I think that can go for lots of things about life, not just regarding books and issues around books. I do keep forgetting to say that we are reading for our citywide read thing. It's Fahrenheit 451, which is why we had the kickoff being discussing these book issues, because that's what that book's all about, right? I haven't read it ever, I don't think, unless I just don't remember, but I really don't think I read it. So I have my free copy. I forgot to include that in my October TBR, that I'm going to be reading that one this month along with the city. So I'm really excited to add that one to the pile for this month. Anyway, that's all. I just wanted to say a little blip about how I felt like that thing ended up. And so we'll talk later. Until next time, happy reading. Bye.